show, 'cause it's the one show where, you know, people don't promote their movies. But I was saying the only time I really want to talk about a movie that's out is when it's a phenomenon. We talked about Waiting to Exhale, or we talked about First Wives Club, Hits a Nerve. I have to ask, why is Star Wars, after 20 years, still this phenomenon?
Well, people don't ask that question if they re-release a Disney classic.
But
Peter
they don't
Pan
make this
or
kind of
whatever.
money. They don't have this kind of thing.
Well, I don't know that they don't. I think that it's because it's a fairy tale, and fairy tales are timeless. It's as simple as that. People mistake the special effects and the trappings of space travel and think, ooh, it's science fiction, but it's really not. It's got a princess, it's got a pirate, it's got a farm boy, it's got a wizard, and it makes people feel good about themselves because it's got a kind of an innocent take on doing the right thing in a selfless way.
Yeah.
I mean...
Okay, that answers that.
And it's got you.
You know, I have to tell you, you mentioned Al Gore talking about the forces with the economy, and I remember the only other time politics intruded on us, and it made me really mad, because I didn't really care about all the lawsuits flying about, because when, you know, with great success, of course, come lawsuits. But when the Reagan administration appropriated our name for that... I was so mad when George lost that case. I said, well, you know what? Let's start calling our movies the Strategic Defense Initiative Trilogy. And, you know, like, he said that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a good idea. Oh, it's a good idea. All right, all of us will call it that.
So what were you going to say?
No, I was just wondering if there was ever any, like, jealousy among the actors and Yoda. You know, just that maybe those dolls sold
mostly
more.
because the robots and Yoda don't age. I mean, I'm just stealing myself for the time when a kid on the street asks me if I'm Luke's father. You see.
Oh.
But we know who that is, right?
We think we do.
Didn't we find that
Well, you know, my son is closer to Luke's age than I am now. So when I went to the movie for the first time in 20 years, I hadn't seen it. And for some reason, I was very moved because it seemed to me as though that were him, not me.
Wow.
And that's also a great way to not take responsibility for your performance.
You know, your Reagan comment, though, is interesting, because I think that movie coming out in the late 70s like that, with the morality play, the good versus evil and all of that, I think that laid the cultural groundwork for Reagan being elected in 1980 with this evil empire.
It's not our fault.
Sure.
Wait a
Big
second.
government, wait a minute, big government was the big galactic war machine and all that stuff. That was pretty symbolic stuff.
So it's our fault now.
Yes, it is.
See, I don't know, with some of these guys running for office today, I would think The Exorcist would be a much better example of laying the cultural groundwork, frankly.
That's the difference between 1980 and
But
1996.
that's an interesting theory. So Reagan is, and the evil empire, there was an evil empire,
Sure there
right?
was.
And Reagan was always a sheriff who rode into town.
Absolutely.
And I've heard this is like a space western. I've never seen this film, but I hear
Oh,
it's...
you're the one.
I hear it's terrific. That's interesting. You think there's something to
No,
that?
but what I think Mark's absolutely right about is that every so often a movie comes out and it gets into the cultural bloodstream. Sometimes they're very well done, and sometimes, you will forgive me, like with Independence Day, clearly the aliens bombed the writer's shack first because the movie absolutely makes no sense. But it, you know, just, right, I'll take my power book and communicate with an alien galaxy's computer. Yeah, right, that's... But now, the only other thing I would say, Roger, sometimes people like me make a little too much of this. Like the fact that the audience cheered when they blew up the White House was supposed to prove that people were conservative. I think that's pushing it a little bit. And that's like English majors with not enough to do with their time.
Right, okay.
But this movie did. It did it in the 70s, and it'll probably do it 50 years from now. If you're still around to collect the residuals, God bless you.
I was going to ask him that question. You know, $38 million, how much of it is trickling down to Luke Skywalker?
Well, can you lend me a couple dollars till Tuesday?
Okay.
That's the answer to that.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back. You mentioned that with success comes lawsuits. Well, there's a doozy.